Friday night, 1990 something, you're walking under that blue and yellow sign, scanning shelves of VHS tapes, picking the perfect movie. Blockbuster owned that ritual, more than 9,000 stores, 25 countries, billions in revenue. Within a decade, nearly all of it was gone. How does a video giant that massive crumble that fast? The answer doesn't start with Netflix. It starts with something Blockbuster built into its own success. On October 19, 1985, a man named David Cook opened the very first Blockbuster store in Dallas, Texas. Cook did not come from the movie business. He was a software engineer who used to write computer programs for oil companies. He realized that tracking video cassettes was actually a lot like tracking barrels of oil in remote wells. Before Blockbuster, local video shops were small and messy. Owners often had no idea which movies were actually on their shelves. Cook solved this with a customized inventory program. He slapped barcodes on VHS tapes and scanned them at the counter. Suddenly, the store knew exactly what was on the shelf and what was out on loan. This system made the store run incredibly well, and it caught the attention of a businessman named Wayne Huizenga. Huizenga bought a majority of the company's stock in 1987, giving him complete control over its future. He started building new stores at a dizzying pace. Between 1988 and 1992, the chain opened a new location almost every week. The company grew from a smart local shop into a massive national machine. By 1992, they had 2,800 stores. The growth was so explosive that in 1994, a giant media company named Viacom bought Blockbuster for $8.4 billion. In just 9 years, a simple computerized filing system had conquered the home entertainment market. Blockbuster was now a corporate giant, and its empire was built on sheer scale. Underneath this multi-billion-dollar empire lay a quiet, toxic trap. Blockbuster's massive profits relied on something every single customer absolutely hated: the late fee. If you kept a VHS tape past its due date, the store charged you an extra fee for every single day it was late. By the year 2000, these late fees were bringing in about $800 million. That was roughly 16 out of every $100 the company earned. This meant Blockbuster's business model was in direct conflict with its own customers. The company made its easiest money when people made a mistake. If you forgot to return a movie, got stuck in traffic, or had a bad experience, Blockbuster got rich. It was an incredibly powerful cash machine, but it was quietly poisoning the brand. The giant had built its foundation on making its own customers angry, creating a deep resentment that would make changing the business later almost impossible. In early 2000, 3 anxious men stepped out of an elevator onto the 27th floor of the Renaissance Tower in Dallas, Texas. Reed Hastings, Mark Randolph, and Barry McCarthy had flown in from California with a desperate proposal. Their tiny, unprofitable DVD-by-mail startup was losing millions, and they needed a lifeline. They sat down in a polished corporate conference room across from Blockbuster's president, John Antioco. The founders offered to sell their entire company, a little service called Netflix, for $50 million. Antioco looked at the 3 men and struggled not to laugh. Inside Blockbuster, the internet was viewed as an overblown, hyped-up fad that would never replace the physical experience of browsing store shelves. Antioco declined, choosing to stay the course. This was a deliberate human decision made by comfortable executives. Fate did not decide Blockbuster's path. People did. Randolph and Hastings walked out empty-handed. Today, that rejected mailing service is worth over $200 billion, making that single Dallas meeting one of the most famous what-ifs in business history. There is a common myth that Blockbuster simply slept through the rise of the internet. But by 2004, John Antioco was watching Netflix's growth with real worry. He decided to fight back with a massive, risky bet. First, he did the unthinkable. He eliminated late fees entirely, throwing away hundreds of millions of dollars in easy cash to win back angry customers. Then, he launched a new service called Total Access. This plan let you rent a movie online, receive it in the mail, and then exchange it at a local store for a brand new rental on the spot. For a moment, the plan worked incredibly well. Total Access gained 3 million subscribers in just 18 months, actually growing faster than Netflix during that time. Antioco had transformed from the executive who laughed at Netflix into a leader pushing his company into the future. But this bold move created a new problem. It triggered a wave of anger inside Blockbuster's own offices, where managers hated losing their easy late fee profits. In late 2004, a billionaire named Icahn bought a 7% stake in Blockbuster. Icahn was an activist investor, which is just a rich person who buys a piece of a struggling company to force massive changes. He believed Blockbuster was throwing away money by trying to build an online service. In 2005, Icahn won seats on the corporate board. A board is simply the small group of bosses who oversee the company and have the power to hire or fire the chief executive. Once inside, Icahn locked horns with CEO John Antioco. The fight quickly became personal, and the argument exploded over a $5 million bonus that Icahn refused to let Antioco have. The board split, the arguments turned bitter, and by 2007, Antioco resigned. In pushing out their leader over a cash dispute, the company had just destroyed the only real plan they had to survive. In 2007, Blockbuster hired a new chief executive officer, the top boss in charge of all major decisions, named Jim Keyes. Keyes had spent years running the 7-Eleven convenience store chain. Because of that background, he believed the secret to retail success was simple: get people to physically walk through the doors and buy things on impulse. He immediately pushed Blockbuster away from the internet and back toward physical stores. In 2008, Keyes publicly dismissed his digital rivals, declaring that neither Redbox nor Netflix were even on the radar screen. Then, in 2010, he brought late fees back to revive cash flow. Blockbuster was now marching backward, directly away from where the world was going. When Viacom spun Blockbuster off in 2004, they left the video giant with a massive parting gift: $900 million in debt. Blockbuster had to borrow this cash just to pay out Viacom shareholders. For years, that debt sat on the books like a ticking clock. Then, the 2008 financial crash hit. Suddenly, banks stopped lending money. Blockbuster needed to refinance its debt, which simply means getting a new loan to replace an old one, but they could not. As bad news spread, movie studios got scared and demanded cash up front for DVDs, draining Blockbuster's remaining money even faster. In September 2010, Blockbuster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Chapter 11 is a legal process where a company that cannot pay its debts asks a court for help reorganizing or shutting down. The giant owed almost $1 billion to its creditors. Its race against time was over. A year later, in 2011, a satellite TV company called Dish Network bought the remaining parts of the business for about $320 million. The new owners quickly realized that keeping the physical retail spaces open did not make sense. By 2014, almost every single Blockbuster store was closed. Today, a single storefront in Oregon is all that remains. But Blockbuster's ghost still haunts every modern business. It is the quiet fear of abandoning what works today to survive tomorrow. What is the next giant destined to fall? Share your thoughts below.